Right, okay, so carrying on with the project of buildings and street scenes, I'll just do so this was one of the demos from last week, and this is probably the clearest one to go with, so I thought I'd do a quick recap. So last week I was talking about two-point perspective, and the basic idea that whatever's closest to you will appear bigger in the picture. So in this case, this edge here will appear longer because that's the closest edge to me, and then the edges that are further away will appear shorter. And then what that means then is that all the things that we know are horizontal actually appear as angled lines. So the lines that represent the horizontal things, like the floor and the roof line, they actually appear as angled lines. And then if you carry these lines on, the top one and the bottom one, they will end in vanishing point, what they call the vanishing point. And then the vanishing point, you have two vanishing points. Is it all making sense? All coming back? You'll have your two vanishing points, and they will be on your eye level, so they relate to you and where you are in the picture. Or if you're taking a photograph, you're doing a drawing, that is your eye level. All good. This is quite a nice exercise. If you want to if you're not sure, maybe do an imaginary building. It doesn't have to be a replica of a photograph, and just make a line through the middle, have 2 points, and then just make up an imaginary building, and just.
Make it even harder.
No, or you could use that as the basis, but you could just use a simple cube shape. Then remember you do the cross there to get the ridge line. Take that back there, and then you could just put windows and doors, or shiplap, or build a porch out, or whatever you want to do. Chimneys, multiple chimneys, anything you want to do. Just as a or it can be a garden shed, anything you want to do. It's a nice exercise just to establish it in your mind, and in some way. And then what you can do, I've got these extra long straight edges. You could literally just find a point and just make sure everything. So each angle of tops of windows, window frames, tops of doors, they will all go back to this one point. So it's quite a nice way of just establishing it in your mind. So once you've mastered that, you can then go on to full street scenes. So I brought a few things in to show you. Actually, this is a painting I was working on the weekend. So this one, you can see there are, all these angles are slightly different. My eye level is about here, so that's where it becomes horizontal. I was standing on the bridge, painted this. And then below eye level, they start to fan out this way. So, just something to just show you how an example of how it works. I thought I'd talk a little bit about street scenes today and other mediums you can use, so sort of sketching techniques. So these are a couple of examples of how I tend to do my sketches. I usually literally just stand there, hold my sketchbook and draw. So I quite like mediums that are, you could use watercolour, but I quite like just a bit of pen and a few shades of grey. That works quite nicely for me. I'll do a little bit with pen, but also watercolour. So the pens I use, I think you're mostly aware of this. I think these ones might be a bit dried up, but I use these fine liner pens, and these are waterproof, so once the ink is dried, you can put watercolour over the top of that and that will stay put. And then I use these Tombow pens, which are water soluble, so you can kind of merge them into each other a little bit. That's a bit similar to the other one. My better set that were in my bag, I've forgotten it. These are water soluble though, so you can, if you want to sort of soften them out with water, they'll bleed out. But I find these really useful. I can basically just have a set of pens like that in one hand and a sketchbook, and then just sketch wherever I am. So that's a nice portable method of sketching. They're quite expensive. They're nearly £4 each. They probably last me a couple of months a set. But I do find them the nicest, easiest way to sketch. If you wanted to go one step further and use watercolours, so I'll do a little drawing on watercolour. So this is the view from down the end there looking up here. I think the other ones I did for my other classes, I used I've got quite a lot of photos of this, which is my Southwold sketch there, but just zooming into the middle. So that's the one I used for that. I thought perhaps I'll use a different one today. So street scenes, if I'm drawing a street scene, what I tend to do is start at the end and just work my way out. Now the sailing club is just a little tiny building there, so it's almost like a little bit too small to measure that. So I'll go with the next building, which is this one here. What I want to do to start with is make sure that everything fits in. So I can maybe measure the height of that and think, well, that goes in 1, 2, 3, perhaps nearly 4 that way, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, probably about 3 or 4 either way. So I'll just do this a little bit in pencil, but once I've got this established, I will just go to pen. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be all right. Maybe a tiny bit lower. Go there. So that, if I draw that size, that should fit in. And then you could do the same for the width. It's slightly sort of about there really, and it's just slightly off centre that. So again, 2, 3, probably nearly 4. Yeah, I think that's going to fit. Now, what I will do though is start with the sailing club, which is about here. So I know if that's that size, the sailing club probably wants to be about that size. It's a little bit tiny, but I would start with that. Now I find it harder to draw and ease all these pens, so it's going to be a bit shakier than I would normally be working. I don't use rulers and I don't really use pencil. I tend to just go straight with the pen. And I find it's quite nice to just build up your confidence with making a mark and leaving it and not worrying about it too much. And if it's a little bit wobbly or if it's wrong, I find that if most of them are all right, you don't necessarily notice the wrong marks too much. So that can be the sailing club there, and then there's a little bit of a gap, and then the pub start there. So in terms of the perspective and the angles, I don't really, once I've got that established, I don't really worry too much about vanishing points and things like that when I'm actually drawing. I just know that in my mind, above a certain angle, so probably eye level's about there. I know that they're going to have to go up that way and down that way. So that could be the front face of that little building. There's some windows there. There'll be a slightly lower angle. Probably my eye level's about there. And then that can come up here. And what I look for is just relative heights of things. So if I've got that chimney established there, and that's coming down a little bit, like that, and coming across. This bit is square onto me, the end of that house is square onto me, so that will just be horizontal there. There's another part of the roof coming across here, and then I'm onto this bit, and that roof level is roughly the same height as that bit there. So basically we'll come across here and know that that's where I need to start, that bit. This bit here where they've got the sign for the boat building thing, or mending bit, that's probably about level with the sailing club sign. So I've come across here and that's coming out here. And then there's a little bit of an angle there, but not much. I don't want to make that too wide actually. I think the front face is about there. Come down to there. And if I did want to check any measurements, I could check things like the width of that against something I've already drawn. So the sailing club is about the same width as that. So yeah, actually it could come a tiny bit wider, up to there. And then at the bottom, the angle is about there. So that point is a little bit lower than this point. Maybe come down a tiny bit more. So that would give me that front face there, with the sign. That looks a little bit out. And we've got doors in there, windows here. It does, you know, it looks a bit sketchy, which is what it is. It's a sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then coming a bit further on, come up to here. That point there is quite a bit higher than the chimney I've drawn. So actually maybe up to about there. And then take that angle up there. Look at the bottom of the windowsill, that's below that level, so that will come down to there. Just keep that nice and narrow. You just see a tiny sliver of a window frame and a window bar. And then the other window is, well, those windows are there. That one is just slightly higher. That's a door actually, I think. I'm not sure actually. Oh no, that's probably a window. That comes up to there. And then the bottom I can't see because there's somebody in the way, but that will probably be about there. And again, there's a bit of an angle, bottom of the windows and the tops of the windows. And I can just put my pen across there just to get the angle. Another thing you can do with angles is, if you're not sure, say you want to get that angle there, you can put your picture in front of it and just do that. Yeah. So just line your pen up and just sort of put it away. And that way you know you've got the right angle.
Then you move the pen and you go.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. You've got to kind of sort of almost like visually remember it very quickly, sort of pop it in. Yeah. But that might be a technique that might help. It's quite hard to sight the angles, to judge the angles. Always try and keep your picture nice and square onto you. Either you're on the same plane if you can, but if not, have that square and actually have your sketchbook. I found just advising people on drawing, keep your sketchbook, you know, a little bit of an angle like this. So rather than have it flat on the table, maybe just have it on the edge of the table so it can keep a bit of an angle. So that can help, because if you're doing that with that, all the angles will go out a little bit. I brought this book in, is on urban sketching. So urban sketching is like a worldwide movement. People meet up all over the world. There's a London urban sketching group, and probably lots of people will gather. You can find out on things like Instagram, and there's blogs and things like that. So you just look up urban sketching. But it's really, I've brought this book in because it's got quite a nice range of different styles, and you can see how different people work. But you can see a lot of people use pens, a lot of people use watercolours. So that book's there if you want to have a little look at that. Yeah, and as I say, once you're there, you can then very quickly just add a little bit of watercolour. Just put a few bits in. So there's some dark bits that can go in here, and it doesn't necessarily need to be too precise. Sometimes just a little bit of colour thrown at it can just start to give it some interest. And this is, in a way, quite a nice, quick way of working. I find when I'm working with oil paints, it's very, very slow compared to this. Whereas, some line and some washes, or just some grey pens or something like that, I can pop that down in probably an hour or two. Whereas oil paintings, it might take me 2 or 3 times that long to work. But yeah, the tone or the colour, whether you want to use tone or colour, a little bit stronger, it will just very quickly add a little bit of character and interest, and then that's a little bit down here. Oops, it's not supposed to bleed. Some shadow, that sort of thing. Yeah, very quickly turn into a nice sort of lively, sketchy piece.
Any questions, or anybody want to ask anything?
Okay. Oh, the other thing I was going to say was Southend Plein Air painters are meeting on Sunday at Chalkwell Hall at 11 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come join us for a little bit of painting or sketching, we usually just do about an hour and a half. So we're meeting at 11 o'clock near the hall in Chalkwell Park. So everybody welcome who wants to come do a little bit. planning board.
Is that where the art centre is? then?
Yes, it is, yeah, right by the art centre, yeah.
I'll just go and hide my room.